The forest was silent except for the wind. That kind of silence that presses against your skin, reminding you just how far you are from the nearest voice. Eli Warren crouched beside a pile of damp twigs, his breath coming out in frosty bursts. The sun had dipped below the ridge an hour ago, and the cold was already creeping through his gloves. He had shelter, barely, but no heat. And out here, in the Sierra Wild, the difference between warmth and death was measured in minutes. His matches were gone. So was his lighter. Lost when his canoe flipped that morning on the icy river. But Eli wasn't the type to give up. He'd been through worse, sandstorms in Nevada, flash floods in Arizona. This wasn't his first brush with survival. Still, even for him, the task was daunting. Start a fire, with no matches, no lighter, and no time to waste. He looked around. The trees loomed tall and indifferent, pines, spruce, birch. Somewhere among them he had to find what he needed. Eli's fingers brushed against damp moss as he moved through the underbrush. He needed tinder, dry, fibrous material that would catch even the smallest spark. The forest had been soaked with rain the night before, but he knew where to look. Under the lower branches of pines, protected from direct rainfall, he found what he needed: brittle pine needles, a handful of birch bark, and the dry inner core of deadwood known as punk. He stripped the bark with his knife, exposing its paper-thin curls. He smiled faintly. "Mother Nature always leaves you a way out," he murmured. Birch bark was magic, full of natural oils, it could burn even when wet. He stuffed a handful into his jacket pocket to warm it. Next he needed kindling, thin, dry sticks no thicker than a pencil. He gathered a small armful, moving with the efficiency of habit. Every motion was precise, calm. The trick to survival wasn't panic. It was purpose. Eli knelt again beside his small pile. From the pouch on his belt, he pulled out the one tool that had survived the river, a carbon steel knife and a worn ferrocerium rod. The ferro rod, a fire steel, was the modern answer to flint and steel. With a sharp strike, it could throw sparks hotter than 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. But sparks weren't fire. Sparks were hope. You had to feed them before they died. He scraped the knife down the rod, once, twice. Bright sparks showered, but the damp pine needles refused to catch. He leaned closer, adjusting the angle. The trick was patience. Tiny motions, deliberate breaths. On the fourth strike, one spark landed on the birch curls and held. The faintest wisp of smoke curled upward. Eli cupped his hands around it, shielding it from the wind. He bent low and whispered, a gentle, steady breath, coaxing the ember into life. "Come on." The ember glowed brighter, spreading through the fibers like a heartbeat. Then, a flicker of orange. Flame. For 1 second it wavered. Then it grew. Eli fed it thin twigs, one after another, careful not to smother it. Within moments, a small fire crackled in the clearing, throwing gold light across the bark of the trees. He exhaled a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Eli sat back on his heels, hands stretched toward the flame. Warmth seeped back into his fingers. The cold retreated. For the first time in hours, his pulse slowed. He wasn't just relieved, he was reminded. Fire was more than survival. It was life, mastery, control over chaos. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, laminated card, one he'd made years ago while teaching wilderness courses. Read. 1. Gather, birch bark, dry needles, and feather sticks. 2. Build, tinder nest first, kindling next, logs last. 3. Spark, ferro rod close, scrape fast and hard. 4. Breathe, gentle, consistent airflow. 5. Feet start small, grow steady. He'd written it as a guide for beginners, but now it felt like a message to himself. The secret wasn't speed, it was preparation. The fire doesn't care how desperate you are. It only obeys respect and precision. As the flames grew stronger, the light reflected off Eli's face, the same look he'd worn as a boy beside his father's old campfire. His dad's voice echoed in memory. "Fire's not just about warmth, kid. It's about will. You can't fake calm when everything around you wants you to panic." Eli smiled softly. Back then he thought it was just another lesson from a weekend camping trip. Now he understood. The forest didn't care if you were prepared. It didn't care about excuses or pride. It rewarded skill, patience, and respect. Nothing else. He picked up a chunk of dry wood, split it down the middle with his knife, and laid it gently on the fire. The flames leapt higher, licking the air like golden fingers. He leaned back, warmed by more than heat. Eli wasn't out of the woods yet, literally. He still needed to signal for rescue. From his pack, he pulled a strip of aluminum foil, once part of his meal kit. He bent it into a makeshift reflector and positioned it behind the fire to amplify its light. Then he added green pine needles, producing a thick, white smoke column. He watched as it rose into the twilight, curling above the treetops like a silent SOS. Somewhere in the distance, a helicopter's faint thrum echoed against the cliffs. He didn't know if they'd see him yet, but they would, because no one misses fire. As darkness deepened, Eli fed the flames slowly, watching the sparks drift skyward. Every ember told the same story, about man and nature, challenge and mastery. You can lose your gear. You can lose your bearings. But if you remember the method, and keep your calm, you can always bring back the light. Starting a fire without matches isn't about being lucky, it's about knowing the process and trusting yourself under pressure. If you ever find yourself out there, alone, cold and scared, remember this: preparation is faster than panic. And a single spark, fed with patience, can save your life. If this story lit something in you, share it, learn from it, and stay ready. Because sometimes survival is just 30 seconds, and one breath away.